I believe divorce can be an empowering experience that women go through to find their true identity and voice, to design the life that they love instead of feeling stuck with the life that they have. I often work with divorce professionals who have clients that are experiencing tremendous pain, sadness, and anxiety because of their divorce. And while I'm sure many of you in the room have become professional therapists yourselves, a lot of times you don't necessarily know how to navigate that process for them, so you wind up just listening. And I'll never forget the day that I met Lindsay. Lindsay and I were actually at a women's empowerment retreat together. And ironically, we sat across the room from each other every single day. And something about her was special to me, and it wasn't what she was wearing or the color of her hair, but it was every time I looked into her eyes, I saw something that reminded me of years ago. I saw sadness, I saw loneliness, and I saw emptiness. And a couple of months later, Lindsay called me, and she said, "I now know why we met that day." She said, "Because shortly after I got home from that retreat, my husband served me with divorce papers. I don't know what to do. All I knew to do was to call you because you shared your story that day. And I knew that you were somebody who could help me not only figure out what to do, but you've been through this. And you have a network of people that can help me." So I also will never forget the day of my own settlement conference with my now ex-husband. I walked into the room, and I remember looking sort of up and down myself, and I remember exactly what I was wearing that day. I was wearing this amazing black pantsuit that I had bought especially for this occasion, along with my favorite pair of stilettos. And I got my hair blown out that day because I thought that if I looked good, that I would be okay, that he wouldn't see how hurt I was. And I walked into the room, and I breathed a very big sigh of relief because, thank goodness, I was the first one there. And because of the work I did on myself, because of what my coach and I had worked on together and role-played before I walked in that room, I did my breathing exercises. I came up with a mantra that would enable me to stand in my power. And most importantly, I had a screensaver on my phone of my 2 boys. And as Kate said so beautifully, that was my reminder of putting my kids at the center of what was about to happen. And, my lawyer and I had gone over everything that we were going to do that day. But what was not her responsibility was my emotional state. We had gone over the cues we were going to have with one another if I needed to break. I knew exactly what our strategy was ahead of time. I also knew the points that I was going to fight, but then give in to make him think he won. Yes, I'm sure many of you have that tactic too. I learned it very quickly. But as I said, she wasn't responsible for my emotional state. That wasn't why I was paying her. But who I was paying was somebody that I trusted and who helped me get through my own process. You see, I went through a very traumatic divorce. It was very unexpected. It was not something that my kids or I thought was going to happen. But when it did, it was almost like a wake-up call for me. And on that day where I realized that my marriage was over, I knew that I was meant for something bigger. And while I was grabbing and reading every self-help book that I could grab my hands on, I was listening to podcasts, many of whom, which honestly, you two are like, celebrities to me, because, but what I knew I needed was something more. And I wholeheartedly believe in the power of the universe. And one day I was scrolling on Facebook, and I saw I saw a post from a friend of mine who's a very successful attorney. And she decided to leave her successful law career and become a career transitional coach. And to put on top of that, it was also to be helping people in the middle of their life transition careers. She was the example of that. And so I remember I picked up the phone and I called her because something about her post I felt it in my body, I felt it in my gut that there was something to this that I needed to investigate more. Now, understand at the time, I had built a 20-plus amazing career in corporate America in advertising sales. I led teams. I built regions from the ground up so that they were multi-million-dollar businesses. But what I loved about what I did was I got to be a leader, I got to be a mentor, and I got to inspire my teams. And that was the favorite part of my job. And so as I was talking to my friend that day, who's the career transition coach, and she was telling me about her program, what I was hearing her talk about was all the things I loved doing in corporate America, but not having to be judged by a number every single day and feeling like crap. And so what I did immediately is I signed up for the program. I knew either way it would be valuable for me because it would help my career. But little did I know that that was the ticket that I needed to literally change my life. As Kate also said, I was in therapy. I was in couples therapy. And I love therapy. I do. Therapy helped me actually take a stand for myself for the first time in my marriage and ask my then husband for a divorce. But you see, I had never used my voice before that moment in my marriage. But yet I had no trouble using my voice and creating a remarkable career for myself in corporate America. So I knew that something had to shift. I knew that there was something different out there. And so after taking these courses, or while I was taking these courses, I learned tools as a coach, but that I also used on myself. And for the first time after my first coaching weekend, I felt more relief after 2.5 days than I had the entire year before. So I knew that there was something special. And I knew that in that moment, that this was what not only I was going to transition into, but that I was going to help women like me because no one deserves to feel as crappy as we do when we're going through divorce. And unless you've been through it, you don't necessarily understand exactly what's happening. So going back to Lindsay. So that day on the phone that we were talking to one another, she not only said, I knew that you were the one to help me, she also said, I need help creating a team. Because she had remembered when I had said to her how I had essentially comprised a team of different professionals that I needed to help me get through because I knew what I didn't know. So I served as the ringleader for Lindsay's post or divorce team. And so I recommended to her a mediator and a lawyer that I knew very well, who I had conversations with and I knew would be a great fit for her and help her get through her process. She's not the only client that I've helped with recommendations. I also have a client, Shelley. Shelley was just about to ask for a divorce, but before she decided to go through with the process, she needed a financial advisor because she couldn't go talk to the one that she had because it was one of her husband's friends. So she called me and asked me if I had somebody that she could talk to get some advice on and even potentially move her finances over once her divorce was over for somebody to help her manage her assets and her money. So I sent her to a financial expert that I had met at a networking event and maintained a relationship with because there was something about him that I trusted, and to the point where I transferred my entire assets to him as well. I also have another client, Susanna, and she went through a very unexpected divorce. And she was dealing with an ex-husband who decided to wipe out their bank accounts. And she needed help with a forensic accountant. That was another box I could check for her because I had to use a forensic accountant in my divorce. And I trust the firm I used wholeheartedly, so I sent her to them. Now, coming back to Lindsay again and her mediation process, part of what I do in my business is not only refer my clients to amazing people that I have met over the last couple of years, but what I also do is I support them through the mediation process. And that's why I call myself a divorce recovery specialist, because I do more than just coach them. I support them through the process of their divorce, and that's when the recovery begins, right? That's when you're starting to, the reality of your new life is starting to kick in. And so as part of my 5-step proprietary program, which is called Divorce Rehab, we really work together for them to reclaim their identity and their voice. And in order for them to do that, it starts with them, but it also starts during their mediation. And when Lindsay was prepping for her own mediation, she and I had a phone call. And I'm so glad that she called me that morning because, like so many of us, we were full of anxiety, we are terrified, and you're really sad. And a lot of the work that I do with my clients is really enabling them to stand in their power that day, because no one else is looking out for them other than their lawyer, of course. But in terms of what she knew to be best for her and her 3 children, that was who she had to embody that day. So before she went in for her mediation, we talked on the phone, and we did a couple of things together. And these are, again, practices that I do as part of my program, which is we role played. Okay, she knew some of the areas that she and her soon-to-be ex were fighting about. So we role played some of those scenarios, and I played the role of her soon-to-be ex-husband, which was kind of fun. But it enabled her to really get comfortable in standing in her power and asking for what she wanted, something she never did in her marriage. We also created a mantra for her to say to herself in her head throughout the process so she could reconnect with her power. I didn't write it for her, she wrote it for herself, so we went through her mantra. We also went through how she could maintain a sense of calm and peace throughout the process and what that looked like, right? So knowing the points that she was really going to fight for calmly and the ones that she was going to give on. And I'm really happy to share with you guys that after that first settlement conference, she got 90% of what she wanted that day from her ex-husband. And he was fighting her on every single point. So one of the things that I do is I handle and help my clients with the emotional side, right? Mark had up that slide of the different circles. I'm the team leader on the emotional side, right? And what it did was it enabled Lindsay's lawyer as well as the mediator to focus on the law, to focus on the issues at hand. And I was the one who helped Lindsay through the emotional piece. And that is crucial to the process. So some other pieces of my 5-step program, rehab actually is an acronym. So the R stands for rediscovering your identity and your voice. The E is about ending your pity party. How many of you have clients that are still in victim mindset and woe is me? Right? A lot of you do in the beginning of the process. So we work on that together. The H is all about healing your wounds, right? Mourning the loss of your marriage. There's a lot of deep wounds in divorce. The A is accepting exactly where you're at, who you are. And the B is building a new foundation from which to create your next best life from. And that's truly what I believe is possible. Because my divorce didn't happen to me. It happened for me. And that is the foundation by which I lead my clients through this process. Helping divorced women through the emotional struggle of their divorce is what I do. Empowering them to reclaim their life, their identity, and their voice is who I am. Thank you.